Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things Podcast. I am Sam, it's Walking Dead Wednesday, and I'm all alone. Yeah, my plans did not work out. Stefan, as we said on previous shows, is away. Big family holiday, 3 weeks stateside. He's having a great time. And I'm here on my child talking about The Walking Dead. It is Season 11, Episode 12. The title of the episode, The Lucky Ones. So before I get into the episode, I think it's fair to say that talking to myself, I will probably go a little bit crazy, a little bit cuckoo, so sorry about that in advance. But also, I don't want to be doing this next week. And the people I've spoken to about maybe jumping on the show for one reason or another, health-wise, of course, despite the governments of the world telling us just to crack on, COVID still is a thing. But also just trying to get time zones between people, and the podcast just hasn't worked out. So here's an opportunity. If you are a listener of this podcast and a watcher of The Walking Dead, would you like to be on the next episode with me talking about the show? We'll be talking about episode 13, unlucky for some, or whatever it's called, and it'll be this time next week. Get in touch as soon as possible if you are interested, because we'll set up a time to record. It becomes available, don't matter where you are around the world, we'll try and find a time that works. But basically, yeah, if you are interested, get in touch with me and we'll see if we can set that up. And we'll go from there. You can reach me at sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com. You can go via our Facebook page and drop me a message, which is probably the easiest way. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, but don't message on there. And TikTok. Yes, we're on TikTok. TikTok is actually kind of fun. We're doing loads and loads of short videos about all of the stuff we watch, with theories, with ideas. We're going to be launching a series on that soon, kind of taking the Marvel what if approach and then applying it to other shows that we like. So we're going to be applying it to Star Wars first of all, and then we will be applying it to The Walking Dead and other shows. Basic premise of what if is you change one thing, and we kind of envisage what that might do, how that would have changed things, i.e. Rick's still around when the Commonwealth show up, and stuff like that. So we'll go from there. Anyway, we do have an episode to talk about. I say we. I'm losing it already. I have an episode to talk about. It is Season 11. It is Episode 12. It is The Lucky Ones. So here we go. So much like when I'm talking to Stefan, I'm going to try and break this episode down into a few different parts. Those few different parts are going to be the story arcs around the different characters. And I want to start with what is the cold open, which is where the real Stephanie is telling her story. And the real Stephanie is actually called Max. So we kind of get that. She actually says as well when she's talking to Eugene, Stephanie was my mother's name. But one of the interesting things in all of this is little bits of information that we've had in the previous episodes all kind of crash together. And I think that's actually been quite good storytelling, because these little things have actually been there. Eugene, when he was getting the ice cream with fake Stephanie, did run into Max, and Max did act really strange, and now we're seeing it from a different angle. We now understand that. I thought she was just perhaps a little bit nervous of an outsider, but no, we now know why. And so I've enjoyed that. I did enjoy that aspect of it. I like the little detail of Stephanie being her mother's name, and I also like the detail we already heard this, but actually then putting it together that Max has a sibling, and that sibling happens to be Mercer. Only Eugene could pick the one woman in the whole Commonwealth to fall for, whose older brother, I assume older, is the big hulking man that is Mercer. I mean, Yeah, way to go, Eugene. So we do learn that. So yeah, Mercer basically uncovers that his sister's been the one communicating with somebody else outside of the walls in this flashback. Hornsby, in essence, intercepts it, learns about it, isn't able to identify who it was. Max quite cleverly used another name in Stephanie. So what Hornsby did was create a Stephanie, and Max had to stay quiet. You know, if she said anything, she would literally be outing herself as breaking the Commonwealth rules. And one of the things we see from Mercer when he's interacting with his sister is he seems to indicate, you know, perhaps despite him being the general and despite her clearly being the personal assistant to the president, for want of a better word, Pamela, their positions are never safe. It does. There's a few hints at that throughout the episode. Mercer talking to Daryl as well. He has a fair few candid moments with Daryl. Little lines like, "You got to remember they're always watching." It's interesting. It's interesting from the point of view of what exactly is the threat. Because if it's implied, you know, you perform your duty, you do your role, or if you don't, then you leave the Commonwealth. That is a valid threat, could mean death. But at the same time, it's not a totally unproportional response to someone not fulfilling their duty, if that makes sense. I.e., if at Alexandria someone was on guard duty, they fell asleep, a load of walkers came in and killed people, that person probably wouldn't be very popular. So again, you just got to look at it from the point of view of what is the consequence, what is the issue. We've already seen at the Commonwealth there does appear to be a class system in place where the workers, the working class if you like, are feeling very hard done by. So again, it's kind of touched on with Mercer throughout the episode, but focusing in again on Eugene. Eugene kind of has an opportunity to reveal more. He has a conversation with Rosita and he elects not to tell her exactly what's going on. At this point, I'd normally say to Stefan why he just focus on Rosita. He's an absolute hound dog for that woman. So let me try and answer that myself. I'm guessing it's protection. I'm guessing Eugene wants to wrap his head around this himself. And also he did get into his head. You know, Hornsby definitely got to him along the lines of, I am the great Hornsby, I'm this guy, I'm that guy. You're just some dumb hick trash who's come in and no one's going to believe you. Rosita, of course, also is in the Commonwealth Army, or police, as she calls it herself. So Eugene, I think, being clever, decides, no, I'm just going to take this as, she's not missing. She left me, she dumped me. And that's kind of it. What's interesting is, in this kind of awakening for him, this kind of realization and talking about it a little bit, he does realize that Max did nothing wrong to him. You know, Max generally seemed to quite like him, was very keen to meet him, a kindred spirit. And what I quite liked about this is Max's character has been very quiet, very kind of background character, very, like I said, almost kooky at times, the way she kind of ran off on Eugene before, which we now have more of an explanation of. But when Eugene goes to see her towards the end of this episode and they're kind of interacting, it's actually kind of sweet. I know, again, if my podcast amigo was here, he'd be hating it because Eugene, the way he speaks, drives him insane. But I actually kind of found the two of them interacting kind of cute. It was weird. It was, she's as kooky as he is. You know, they were literally finishing each other's sentences. She was predicting characters he would have written into his novel. It was nice. It was nice for Eugene to have that. And this time it's real. At least we hope it's real. That would be particularly cruel if she has an agenda as well. But it's going to be interesting because obviously she is the sibling of Mercer. Mercer has hinted a few things about, you know, this is difficult, especially for us, and I don't quite know what that means. It's going to be interesting to see how that unravels, and how much will she say to Eugene? How much will Eugene say to her? She's obviously aware that agent of some sort of Hornsby pretended to be her to seduce Eugene and get information from him, bring him in. So this is someone he can actually talk to about this, whereas he obviously feels he cannot talk to his friends. I mean, if you went to Carol with this, I mean, I think Carol starts slitting throats. So yeah, he needs to be careful, but it is going to be interesting to see how that develops. Speaking of Carol, this brings us nicely to her and Ezekiel's storyline. Ezekiel's at the hospital, he's having a bit of a checkup, he thinks they're just checking his bloods. But no, Yumiko's brother informs him, you're in for surgery on Friday, my friend. He's shocked. Jerry, who I love, by the way, absolute kindred spirit with Jerry, celebrates. He's just happy for the win, happy for the luck. Ezekiel obviously questions it. He knows he was pretty far down that list. Ezekiel, at heart, is a very good guy. And he, although obviously relieved and obviously would be very happy for this to be happening to him, is questioning why it's happening. And rightfully so, as we all know. But he has been in that hospital. He has been around people who are suffering and waiting for surgery slots. He says as much to Carol. Carol comes to him and he realizes quickly, what have you done? She doesn't have a good poker face when she's talking to him. A lot of the time she does. I think one of the beautiful things that they've got right in the writing for those two as a former couple, if you like, those two were together a long time. So when Carol comes into a room and is trying to bullshit, he just knows. He's like, no, don't pull that face. I know what that face means. Anyone who's been in a long-term relationship will know that. You pick up on the tells very easily, especially when you live with someone. So it's interesting, and it's kind of funny how that was portrayed. And I like that. I like that was in there, a level of detail. She basically just says it, I wasn't going to stand back. I made a deal. I was owed a favour. Also, it kind of interesting to me was that we questioned on the show how much she was going to have to do for Hornsby to get this. She'd gone on this mission with him, identified something. We talked about in last week's show, and I was kind of like, okay, so how many more favours do we think? Does that bump him up the list 20 places? Is it going to be a case of a continual, okay, right, there you go, it's 20 places now. If you wanted to move him up 20 more, you need to do this. But no, it would appear Hornsby just wiped the debt, no cost for any of this, and moved him to the front of the line. I'm curious, why that is. I mean, he's clearly decided to form an alliance, but if you're looking at the show right now, and you're looking at the Commonwealth, you're looking at Milton, you're looking at Hornsby, neither of them are coming across as A1 good guys, thumbs up, but then neither of them are coming across as, absolute F- bad guys either, because there's plenty of times in this episode where I'm looking at Milton and listening to her talk and thinking, yeah, okay, you're actually a pretty decent person. The first time we've had a real interaction with you. And then there's this situation, Hornsby could have just kept Carol on the hook, could have just kept going, but he didn't. It's like, okay, you did me that favour, bang, here we go. And this is it. And it's interesting to me because he is clearly trying to form his own little power base. He has his own little spies and operatives, and I made it quite clear in last week's show, I'm fairly confident that is his role, like an intelligence officer for the Commonwealth. So Milton's probably fully aware of his clandestine meetings and the people working for him and what he does. What is interesting, again, this could tie into what I said about... It could tie into the main man, Mercer, of course, because Mercer has hinted a lot during this episode, they're always watching. Is that less about a kind of keeping up appearances and a genuine Hornsby has people anywhere, you must always be on your guard? It's an intriguing dynamic, it's an intriguing community, we're all still learning about it. But like I said, Ezekiel's been taken into surgery. A little bit of a jab about pineapple on pizza. Gotta be honest with you, I'm with Jerry on this. Hawaiian pizza's amazing. I don't know why people don't like it. You gotta get with it. If you don't like pineapple on pizza, I don't know what to say to you. But yeah, I liked that little arc. It was nothing major. There was nothing kind of. You could have easily overdone it. It could have easily been a really dramatic scenes of him. No, why have you done this to move me up the list? They got it right. They got the right level of him being concerned by it, and Carol basically being belligerent in like, no, I'm not apologising for helping you and making this happen, so shut up. And then we see him being taken into surgery, so hopefully that goes well, because Ezekiel as a character is interesting, and he's growing more and more interesting. He came into it as a really larger than life comic book character with a tiger, and now he's just this great human being with a big heart and really interesting perspective on so many things. And it's going to be great to have him around. Him and Jerry forever, as far as I'm concerned. But I guess the bulk of the episode, really, and kind of the main focus of the episode, is this excursion where Pamela goes out on the road with Hornsby. Daryl's there. Daryl's out of uniform. It kind of made me wonder where we were in this kind of like timeline, because episode 1 of this block of episodes, we had this 6-month time jump, and Daryl in uniform is at the gates of Hilltop, and there's definitely a confrontational vibe between him and Maggie. But in this, we hear it, he's out of uniform as kind of like a political thing, make him look more approachable. Yeah, so that was kind of interesting, but he is there, but they go out and they start at Alexandria. It's kind of clear that Pamela and so Milton and Hornsby, they have a kind of differing views, if you like. She's coming out quite reluctantly. She doesn't necessarily want to be there. She doesn't necessarily see the value of bringing these communities in as a kind of partners to the Commonwealth. She even says at one point it's, a state away. She talks about, if you try and expand your empire too far, your empire is going to crumble. It's an interesting perspective from her, and I'm trying still, even after the episode ends, to quite work out what Hornsby has in mind here. She seems to be seeing through him as he's after some sort of power himself. He wants to be in charge of these communities. Obviously, right now, they get there, they get to Alexandria, and it is being rebuilt. There's a lot of labour there, some troops there from the Commonwealth. There's a lot of work being done. You see Aaron welcome her and give her a tour. Interesting little thing is Pamela knew Deanna. That was kind of interesting and also kind of fun. Also, just nice to hear Deanna mention, it's the last series of The Walking Dead. You're talking about Alexandria being rebuilt, again. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice that little nod was in there. So, one thing that didn't happen, though, there was a fair few conversations about leaders and leadership. Not once did Rick come up. And I don't know about anybody else, but I was kind of watching the episode. Just, come on, talk about Rick Grimes. He's the man. He was the man that did this. He brought everybody together. He's the reason why so many of you are alive. Deanna may have founded Alexandria, but Alexandria went nothing until Rick and his group showed up. They were probably going to get murdered by those wolves guys, if anyone remembers them. So yeah, it's interesting that, I don't know, I say interesting is the wrong word. It was sad that he didn't get mentioned. I kind of thought there were a few opportunities in the episode that Aaron or Daryl, for example, could have said something. Daryl had a conversation with Mercer. It was a good conversation, really interesting. And in that, he talked about leadership with him, like, were you a leader here? I kind of felt like his answer was fine, but it just felt like an opportunity that for us as fans watching the show could have really enjoyed a little bit of a Rick Grimes moment, a little bit of a reminder of him and his time on the show. There was also another opportunity later where I felt Carl could have got a mention. And maybe in some ways he did. The talk about Herschel, when they're at the Hilltop, he's running around and Mercer's lets him have his helmet and stuff, and everyone's being kind of friendly and laughing and joking, and Mercer's like, it must be tough for kids out here. Mercer's thinking of things as the Commonwealth and the safety, kids going to school and stuff. And Daryl points out, this kid was born to this. He was born on the road. He was born living in this world. So for him, this is it. This is how his normal is. Like I said, it kind of felt like there was a perfect opportunity there for the Child of the Apocalypse Carl. Perhaps even a Judith nod. But no, it's fine. And, that worked for in the moment. It's just, I don't know about anybody else who's a Walking Dead fan. I was a Walking Dead fan. The Grimes story was kind of it for me, so I know we're quite far past that now, and all these other characters, and it's not that I dislike any of them, but I was following Rick Grimes. It was seeing all of this through his eyes and the eyes of Carl and and Judith. So yeah, it's a little bit sad for me that this not. Anytime I feel like there could be a potential, it means something to me, I think. A lot of other people wouldn't care and probably wouldn't even notice, but for me it means something. So I always feel a little sad when an opportunity is missed in that regard. Well, it's only deemed missed to me. To other people, it's not needed, I guess. But like I said, they go on this tour, they go to Alexandria, they go to Oceanside, which was great to see that again. Nice to see that place is getting back on its feet. Quite literally see Pamela sticking her feet in the ocean, which was quite amusing. But we do get the first hint then that all things aren't quite alright when we get to the ocean side, and they're basically telling them, nah, if Maggie's not on board, we're not on board, so jog on. So what happens then? There's definite tension straight away. Hornsby and Aaron, there's a real tension between them. Aaron seems kind of a bit more relaxed. Aaron, of course, is a survivor. He's a guy who's been out in this world fighting day to day, literally for his life. Oh no, you won't give us the food we promised. Ah, well, I'll find a way of dealing with it. Obviously, he wants this to go through, but you can't predict what Maggie's going to do. And we actually see in this episode, for me, both the really good and the really negative aspect of Maggie's leadership. The show kind of builds Maggie up to be the best leader. Rick at one point kind of hands that to her. A lot of people push her forward, and it's kind of fine to me, and it's not something I've ever really questioned as a character, but there are a number of occasions with Maggie where I look at the decisions, I look at things she made, and it's like she is no better in the leadership role than others we've seen. Certainly makes decisions as best she possibly can, like we all would. But there's no, to me, defining thing about her which I'd go, yeah, she's clearly a better leader than Rick, for example. I would look at them and say they both have flaws, they both have positives, and that's that. They both have their merits. And in this episode, we kind of see the positive aspect of her leadership, where she does inspire people. She is someone who gets her hands dirty in every aspect, the rebuild, keeping people safe. She is someone who has a leadership role, leads from the front, and looks to inspire through her actions, not just directing traffic. And it's a little bit of a culture clash with Milton. The two of them pair off whilst hunting, which is a strange little concept, but they do it. But the conversation's a good one. And I think during that conversation, Maggie gets to know her a little bit. I mean, the little jab about an autocracy I thought was great, especially when Milton fired back at her. It's like, well, when was the last time you had an election, Maggie? I enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed their interaction. And it was the first time we'd seen Pamela a little bit more. I mean, she was on her own, so I think she opened up a little bit more, and I think she liked what she saw in Maggie. I think she enjoyed that conversation. I think she enjoyed, perhaps as simple as she quite enjoyed seeing another woman in an authority position. She's got this very ambitious man in Hornsby, snapping at her heels. Perhaps it was nice for her to be out there with somebody else to kind of go, whew, stressful this job, isn't it? Because I don't think she feels she can ever relay that to the people around her, not in the Commonwealth. the view of people are always watching that you hear from Mercer. Perhaps that applies to Pamela as well. You know, she feels like she cannot let this facade, this person slip at any point. Or, of course, she's an evil mastermind behind the whole thing, absolute puppet master. We don't know. But it's an interesting thing. The interaction was good. The interaction between the two of them I liked. I personally think Maggie was on the fence still, but when they came back and saw the great work being done, everyone being true to their word, they were there to help, I think she was coming around. I even think her conversation with Hornsby had her pretty much set on this is a good idea. The people she's with, all of them to a person were kind of, this is great, you know, this is really good, this is just what we needed. Lydia especially, the lady with the bow and arrow who was originally from the kingdom, whose name I can never remember, and I'm not going to be able to get it, and I don't have Stefan here to help me, so apologies. You can scream it at the podcast, but I'm not going to get it. They're all on board, everybody is, and they have their alert system set up in the community. You know, they've got the tins strung up, the old ways for our group of survivors, where you have that there, and you know, the walkers have run into them and it sets off an alarm, so they go out to take them out, and Mercer marches some of his troops out there and just wrecks them. You know, Maggie and that lot are fighting with their knives, and Mercer, etc., fire, and bang, they're gone. You know, seconds and it's dealt with. It's interesting. Like I said, I really think she was there. I really think she was ready to say, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's join. Let's do this. But the thing that kind of flipped her on a dime, and this is what I'm talking about around a leadership point of view, is you've had this entire episode with countless positives, countless things that are positive for her people, the food, the help to build, all of these things. It is a list of things, the medicine, the help, everything that's going on is a massive plus. You know, if you're doing like a pros and cons list, everything's pro. All of this stuff is pro. And in one moment, she doesn't even add a con. She just has a feeling something might be a con. And that's enough for her to blow the whole damn thing up. Now, of course, we know the way storytelling works. She's going to be proven right. She's going to be proven that, the Commonwealth, they were bad from the start, they're corrupt, and I was right to push back. We just know from a storytelling point of view that's how it's going to work. But from a real life point of view, any leadership role you're looking at, you've got a pro and a con list, and it's all of these things are the best for the people. Maybe not her. Maybe she's going to lose power. Maybe she's not going to have the authority that she does now if they're part of the Commonwealth. But for the people that are there at Hilltop, you cannot even begin to pretend they are better off without them. And that's the choice she makes. She sees Daryl have to fall in with the soldiers, and that's it. She deems that as conformist. She deems it as, you know, oh no, we're going to lose who we are. We're going to lose our freedom. And bang, she just goes against it. It's a debate, and it's a fun one. If I had someone here with me, I'd probably be going backwards and forwards it. It reminds me like the MCU film Civil War, where you've got the Avengers, you've got all of these superhumans with these accords, and they have to sign, you know, or they don't sign. And there's the whole idea is you can kind of argue and see both points of view from this point of this document. And I bring it back to this with Maggie in the situation. It is a good debate. I'm sure people listening have their own points of view. They have their own take on what she should or shouldn't do. And of course, there's a moral compass issue here, which is, you know, if you've got all of these things that are pros, you know, a list of 99 pros, but that one con is, by the way, every Friday night we pick a citizen at random and we feed them to the walkers because we think sacrificing them to the walkers is appeasing our gods. You're probably going to go, maybe not then. No, maybe not. Maybe not for us. You know, all those pros, yes, but that one con's a big one. I think my point of view is looking at it is she doesn't even have a con. She is just looking at it thinking, that could be an issue. I mean, Daryl's there And it's Daryl. Daryl's there being Daryl. He isn't wearing the uniform, which of course he could be. And I know it is said in there by Mercer, you know, you were out of uniform purely as a PR stunt. And, you know, so perhaps that's the thing. Perhaps Daryl, if Daryl had shown up in the uniform from the start, maybe she wouldn't have even been remotely receptive to it at all. We don't know. We're not going to know. But again, it's a fun debate to have. It's a fun discussion. I wish I had someone here to discuss it with me. Maybe that could be you next week. So once again, here's me appealing. If you listen to the show, I don't care if you're a brand new listener. I don't care if you've been listening for years. Get in touch. If you fancy coming on and talking to me and your show going out to literally 10 people, no, you get involved. Drop me a message. Like I said, the Facebook page is probably the easiest. Facebook.com/StuffAndThangsPodcast. Hopefully you're already on there. If you're not, go drop a like on it and hit it a follow. Drop me a message there. You can email me. It's sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com. It's a long email address, I know, but that's our website, stuffandthangspodcast.com. So it's sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com. Email me, send something via Facebook. If I'm here next week talking to myself again, one, I cannot guarantee I won't go a little bit cuckoo where I start actually answering myself. No, I won't. Yes, I will. And also, it will show that people listening, none of you like me enough to want to come and talk on the show. And that, come on. Someone out there must think, oh, okay, he's not that annoying. Please. Because if Stefan gets back and I've been talking to myself, I'm never going to hear the end of it. So a big thank you to everybody for listening. I appreciate the podcast is not as good when there's not a debate, and I am sorry about that. I will work hard to try and make sure that doesn't happen next week. But we will be back next week, whether it's just me, whether it's other people as well. The show will continue. That is The Walking Dead Wednesday, every Wednesday whilst The Walking Dead is airing. Also when Fear is out as well. Other shows are coming back thick and fast. The Umbrella Academy, The Boys. Check our Facebook page. The trailers and release dates for these shows are now available. Obi-Wan Kenobi show starting soon. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're not going to want to miss that. We're certainly going to be talking about it here on the podcast. Also announced Ms. Marvel now has an air date, June the 8th. The first trailer is out. Cannot wait to be talking about all of these shows. I hope you're going to join us for them. If you're just joining us for The Walking Dead, that's fine too. We'll be back next week, everybody. You all take care.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.